Hey guys, it's me Rebecca. So I'm here today to do my February wrap-up as well, discuss what I plan to read in March so far. So yeah, let's get started with the first book I finished in February, which was Anatomy, a Love Story by Dana Schwartz. And this is about Hazel Sinnen, who is a lady who wants to be a surgeon more than she wants to marry, and Jack Kerr, who is a resurrection man who's just trying to survive in a city where it's too easy to die. When the two of them have a chance encounter outside the Royal Edinburgh Entomologists Society, Hazel thinks nothing of it at first, but after she gets kicked out of renowned surgeon Dr. Bitchman's lecture for being the wrong gender, she realizes that her new acquaintance might be more helpful than she first thought. Because Hazel has made a deal with Dr. Bitchman. If she can pass the medical examination on her own, he will allow her to continue her medical career. Without official lessons through, Hazel will need more than does her books. She'll need corpses to study. Luckily, she made the acquaintance of someone who digs them up for a living. But Jack has his own problems. Strange men have been seen stalking around cemeteries, his friends are disappearing off the streets, and the dreaded woman fever, which wiped out thousands a few years ago, is back with a vengeance. Nobody important cares, until Hazel. Now Hazel and Jack must work together to uncover the secrets buried not as in unmarked graves, but in the very heart of Edinburgh society. And yeah, with this I did find it interesting how Hazel, she's expected to act like as a proper lady and do what society expects her to do, to, marry and be content. And we see that she's essentially been, I guess, basically engaged to a cousin, it seems like, since she was little, and she doesn't really want that, but she knows that's what's expected of her in order to live comfortably, in order to not be dependent on her own brother. And maybe if the brother marries and one brother marries, I should say, and if his wife is nice enough, then the charity of the wife. And we see how society thinks women are too feeble-minded to be surgeons or doctors, and how it contrasts to what Hazel wants, which is to be in science, and how she has limited time to do that, to prove she can. And we see how she is overlooked because she is a woman by society, and the pressures of her mother to be in a position where she'll only be dependent on her husband. And I did like the dual POV, how we see Jack's perspective and see how life in being a resurrection man and how the possible return of the fever might affect his income. As well, he works in a theater, and because higher up in society are afraid of the fever and going nowhere outside, it's affecting that business as well in a way, and we do see people's fears of this fever. And I did like how Hazel and Jack are from different social classes, how she doesn't have to worry about how she'll get her next meal or how to get money or when. And yeah, with their, relationship, it felt like a bit too quickly, and I just didn't really feel fully attached to it. But I did like it, and I did give it 4 stars full. I don't know if I will continue on in the series, but we shall see. And the next book I was able to finish in February was I'm Not Done With You Yet by Jessie Tonto. And this is about Jane's Unhappy, a struggling middle-aged writer whose novels barely command 4 figures. She feels trapped in an underwhelming marriage, just scraping by to pay a crippling Bay Area mortgage for a house, a life she's never really wanted. There's only ever been one person she cared about, one person who truly understood her, Thalia, Jane's best and only friend nearly a decade ago during their creative writing days at Oxford. It was the only good year of Jane's life. Cobblestones and books and damp English air, heady wine and sweet cider, and Thalia. And thus Thalia. But then one night ruined everything. The blood-soaked night that should have bound Thalia to Jane forever, but instead made her lose her completely. Thalia disappeared without a trace, and Jane has been unable to find her since. Until now. Because there she is, her name at the top of the New York Times bestseller list. A Most Pleasant Death by Thalia Ashcroft. When Jane discovers a Facebook post from Thalia on her website about attending a book convention in New York City in a week, can't wait to see you there. She can't wait either. She'll go to New York too. Credit card bill be damned. And this time, she'll do things right. Jane won't lose Thalia again. And with this one, we do see how obsession can turn into doing anything for them. How it can be used against you to make you do what they want you to do, and how it can make you oblivious to certain things. Like we see Jane, who's been lonely her entire life, kind of have hold Thalia on, not sworn, but in her mind she's very high up. Like she would do anything for Thalia, anything. And Thalia knows that and used that to her advantage at times. And we see Jane, who has been lonely all her life. This one did Thalia owe to herself so that she's not lonely anymore. We do see that obsession with finding someone. And we do have a character who claims, and this might be outdated terminology, but this is how the character described herself, who claims to be a sociopath, but not. But she took online quizzes, so not officially diagnosed, but really it just seems like she just had an intense form of social anxiety. And we do actually have a character who's been diagnosed with ADP, and we see that, and we see the difference, and it's quite interesting. And yeah, overall I like this, and I gave it 4 stars. And the next book I finished in February was Madam by Phoebe Wayne. And this is about, for 150 years, high above rocky Scottish cliffs, Canterbury Hall has sat untouched, a beacon of excellence in an old ancestral castle. A boarding school for girls, it promises that the young women lucky enough to be admitted will emerge resilient and ready to serve society. Into its midst steps Rose Christie, a 26-year-old classics teacher, Canterbury's new head of department, and the first hire for the school in over a decade. At first, Rose is overwhelmed to be invited into this institution, whose prestige is unrivaled, but she quickly discovers that behind the school's elitist veneer lies an impenetrable, starkly traditional culture that she struggles to reconcile with her modernist beliefs, not to mention her commitment to educating girls for the future. It also doesn't take long for Rose to suspect that there's more to the secret circumstances surrounding the abrupt departure of her predecessor, a woman whose ghost lingers everywhere, and then anyone is willing to let her on. In her search for this mysterious former teacher, Rose instead uncovers the darkness that beats at the heart of Canterbury's, forcing her to confront the true extent of the school's nefarious purpose and her own role in perpetrating it. And with this, we do see how old-fashioned and traditional the school is, and how outdated Rose views it, with the way the girls are taught to be proper ladies and how they're punished. And these girls are literally put into arranged marriages to men who are of their social level or above, and it's to prevent these girls from being above men. Like, this school was founded on someone who wasn't a big fan of Queen Victoria for the fact that she was a woman in power. And there are a few Asian girls, and it seems like they are segregated from everyone and everything, and how Rose is out of her element and has no idea what is going on, as she is viewed as an outsider who is slowly being let in. And we see how Rose's loved ones are essentially used against her to get her to compile, as the school is taking care of her mother and they know of accusations against her father and can ruin his reputation. And we see how brainwashed and the faculty and the girls are into thinking this is good, and how things are supposed to be. And for some faculty, the school is all they've ever known and they cannot imagine a world outside it. And we do see how Rose is slowly undoing the brainwashing in some of her students through telling them tales of women in Greek mythology who had power taken from them and tried to take that power back, and how for some they were able to, and for some they weren't. And overall, I found this quite interesting, and I gave it 4 stars as well. And the next book I finished in February was The Grace of Kings by Ken Liu. And this is about the archipelago of Dara was once divided into 7 kingdoms, with shifting alliances and constant battles, a tempest of diverse dialects and cultures. When a relentless king united these 7 lands into one empire, some thought it would bring peace in a turmoil. Instead it brought stagnation and suffering, the anger of the gods, and finally a rebellion. Kunigaru is a really bandit who is more concerned about being well liked than with the affairs of the empire, until he meets his match, Gia. This free-spirited daughter of a well-regarded family sees greatness within Kuni. Driven by Gia's love and touched by the grace of the common people, Kuni sets out on an unlikely path of heroism and perhaps a daring wager against the gods. Mata Sandhu, the last son of a family of renowned generals, is favored by the gods. Standing 7.5 feet tall, broad-shouldered, and double-pupiled, Mata looks like a hero out of ancient legends. Determined to reclaim his own heritage, Mata catches wind of a revolution and begins a journey to become the greatest warrior of his age. Kuni and Mata become fast friends, and they wage shepherd wars against vast conscripted armies and silk-draped airships in order to wrest Dara from cruelty. And yeah, overall, I did like this. We do see how people, they will do what they will do in time of war to survive and protect their assets, whether that is their kingdom, their freedom, their lives, or their reputation, by switching sides when convenient, or tricking people, or joining the rebellion. And we see how quickly the tides can turn depending on the strategy or moves the side will take. And the friendship between the two of them is interesting, as one has been raised for this cause to fight and kill and to punish who've wronged them, while the other wasn't born a noble one, I just say. And see how people can be moved by fear, and they want us to help people, and how quickly it turned them into one another, and how their beliefs of how things should move forward is interesting, as one believes in doing things the way it's always been done, while another believes in trying new methods. And we do see how women play different roles in the war, how they're using their lack of power to still have an influence and be part of an achievement, and how they find ways to fight alongside men. And we do see how people with different skill sets come together to plan and invent ways for achievements to occur. And overall, I like this, and I give it 4 stars. And if you heard that, I was stacking the books next to me, and they all just toppled over. So, but the next book I finished in February was Heaven's Officials Blessing Volume 3 by Mo Zong Tongshu, and this was translated by Suka, and Panji. I'm sorry if I mispronounced those names, but yeah, this is Volume 3. I'm just going to tell you the synopsis of Volume 1. which is essentially we follow this god named Shilan, who's descended 3 times, and he was renowned for his beauty, strength, and purity. His years of dedicated study and noble deeds allowed him to ascend to godhood. But those who rise may also fall, and fall he does, cast from the heavens and banished to the world below. 800 years after his mortal life, Julian has ascended to godhood for the 3rd time, angered most of the gods in the process. To repay his debts, he is sent to the mortal realm to hunt violent ghosts and trouble-making spirits to prey on the living. And along his travels, he meets the fascinating and brilliant Shanling, a young man with whom he feels an instant connection. Yet Shanling is clearly more than he appears. What mysteries lie beneath that carefree smile? So yeah, I'm just gonna talk about what I thought of this without giving too much spoilers. And we do see with this volume we see Shilling, and I guess when he ascended at first, and how he is trying to protect his kingdom from falling, and he is told that it is destiny for his kingdom to fall, and we see how he is trying to prevent this, and how he just keeps failing, how things are meant to occur no matter what we do. It's written in fate. And there is also a drought in this one, and with the lack of rain, and I thought it was interesting how we see the perspective of things, and how things can appear one way due to one position and appear another way due to another's. Like, we see this politically in dealing with refugee from the drought area of the kingdom, and how people react to it, and how some people are glad for it, and while others disdain it. And I just thought it was interesting, and seeing him in Shanling was also nice. I don't know what else I can really say about this, because yeah. But overall, I liked it. I gave it 4 stars. Now, with the last 2 books I read in February, I did read a duology, which is the Enchanted Letters, I think it is called. Duology by Rebecca Ross. The first book is Divine Rivals, and this series is about Woman and Iris, who are competing for the spot as a communist at a newspaper, and you see them compete, and when Woman gets the position, Iris quits and decides to become a war correspondent for this war between 2 gods. And Iris' brother enlisted to fight in this war for one of the gods, and she has been writing him letters and putting them under her wardrobe, thinking they're being sent to him, while they're being sent to Woman. And he does write back, and the 2 start corresponding through. She doesn't know it's him, and and with this one specifically, with Divine Rivals, we see how people define expectations on who you should be and what is expected of you by your family or by yourself, and how sometimes life can be scary. You don't want to let your armor down and be vulnerable, but sometimes that makes you braver. And we see how people think there will always be tomorrow to live out dreams, until you realize there might not be the opportunity. You have to live in the moment. And with the fact they are at war, and they are in a front lines, like, that is something that they realize quickly. Like, there might not be tomorrow. Like, who knows what could happen today? And when Iris finds out it was Woman who was sending her the letters, she is a bit upset with him, but that moment passed on a bit too quickly for my liking. Like, I would have liked it for a bit too longer. And I also can see, like, the issues people had with the lack of fantasy aspects, as it's not really there who I view it more as the gods are fighting and their followers, their worshippers are a part of it, with people signing up for one side or another, or people having a change of belief due to what they're told or what the gods want them to think. And I thought it was quite interesting, and I gave it 4 stars. Now with this one, like, I don't know what I can tell you that won't be spoiling what happened in this book. I think all I can say is that one of the other characters ends up being saved by one of the gods after the events of the ending of this book, and they kind of have to act like they're loyal and to this god while working with the other character to try and bring them down. And we see really how this war is affecting, I guess, the political environment in the major city that Iris and Roman are from. How it is very obvious that those in power are on the side of this one god, and it's like this god is very charismatic and charming, and people just fall under their spell and believe it in. We also see how there's a group of people who they think they're serving a better good. They don't want either gods to win, or they don't want people to believe in either god, so they are trying to scare people and enforce this rule of no, I guess, propaganda for either god. Yeah, so far, but yes, I did like it, and I'm giving it 4 stars. Now, that is everything I read in February and what I plan to read in March. So far, everything else I read in March will be my March wrap-up, but next I do plan to read Blacktop Wasteland by S.A. Cosby. And this is about once known as the best getaway driver east of the Mississippi, Beauregard Bug Montage has never stopped looking over his shoulder. He knows that no matter how long he has been out of the life, no one ever gets out completely. Now Bug is an honest mechanic, a loving husband, and a hard-working dad. But when his carefully built new life begins to crumble and a former associate comes calling with a can't-miss jewelry store heist, Bug feels he has no choice but to get back in the driver's seat. Haunted by the ghost of who he used to be and the father who disappeared when he needed him most, Bug must find a way to navigate this blacktop wasteland or die trying. So yeah. So that is everything I read in February and what I plan to read in March so far, and yeah, that's it for this video. So if you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up, leave a comment below telling me what you've been reading recently. If you want to, please subscribe to this channel, and if you want to follow me on any social media, then all those links are in the down bar below. I'll see you guys next time I post a video.